Last year I applied and was approved for the JetBlue Plus card. At the time it had an 80,000 point sign up bonus. Now 365 days later and a number of trips taken, the $99 annual fee has finally hit. What is good, fam? In this video I will give you my opinion on the JetBlue Plus card 1 year later. When thinking about what credit cards you want to get, there might be a lot of things that go through your mind. So when it comes to airline cards, this is no different. That is why last year I wanted to sign up for the JetBlue Plus card. Now, I've flown JetBlue a couple of times and it's actually one of my favorite airlines, but I never really thought about getting the credit card for them. That was until I saw the 80,000 point sign up bonus. I figured, what the hell? I haven't seen much fanfare on the card, but I thought that the sign up bonus alone was interesting. Little did I know that I would find this card to be a pretty good domestic reward earner. And over the past year, I have taken a number of flights and have gotten a pretty good amount of value out of the card. So with that, the question I ask myself now is, am I gonna keep it for another year? So the JetBlue Plus card is potentially a great card in the right hands, but because its namesake airline is JetBlue and not one of the three major airlines, and by this I am obviously meaning it's not American Airlines, Delta, or United, it doesn't get much love. Well, at least in my opinion. So for the last 365 days, I have tested out this card. I have racked up a number of points and taken flights from New York to California and back. And because of that, I now want to talk about the points that I racked up and how I use them throughout this past year. First things first, we gotta talk about the acquisition. So I hit the relatively easy sign-up threshold of $1,000 plus to paying the $99 annual fee pretty quickly. Now, I strategically did this by having JetBlue flights that I already planned on from New York to California, and basically paying for these flights with this card helped me reach the goal that much quicker, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. Now, I received the 80,000 points in 2 installments. It was on the same day, but it wasn't 2 installments. The first installment was for 60,000 points and the second installment was for 20,000 points. So for me, with those points, I was actually able to book a round trip flight for me and my wife between JFK and LAX for 54,800 points. That still left me with 25,200 points to spare. Now, unfortunately, I got this card before I started my YouTube channel, so I don't have exact cents per point or dollar metric to go off of. But for your reference, I did get above the 1.4 cents per point. I think it was around 1.6 for all of my flights. So with that, I do believe I received northwards of $986 for the flight overall. What was even better was that the original price of these flights was 31,000 points each way, but because of the 10% rebate on the JetBlue Plus card, I was actually able to get 3,100 points back from each way. The great thing about this card that I think personally is that it gets you 6x on JetBlue purchases, which basically means JetBlue flights. Now, when you compare this to a lot of other airline cards, this is a pretty good earner. Now, you can combine that with the 3x you get from purchases on JetBlue.com, basically purchasing JetBlue flights or in flight purchases, and the 3x you get from being a True Blue member. You're coming away with 12x on each JetBlue flight. So if you're not really sure what the actual dollar value of that would be, it actually fluctuates depending on your redemption. But if you use the average value of 1.4 cents per point and multiply that by the 12x you're getting for the flight, you're coming somewhere north of 19% back on your purchase. Now again, this is still depending on your redemption, so it could be a lower percentage back or even a higher percentage back. The card also gets 2x on groceries, which I honestly, as you can tell, find pretty laughable. It has a $100 perk for a JetBlue vacations, which honestly I might use for sandals one day, but still at the moment this perk is not that valuable to me. It also has a way to spend your way to Mosaic status, which is JetBlue's loyalty program status, but at least at the moment for me personally, this is not something I am interested in at all. But going back, if you can remember how I said earlier, I used this card to get JetBlue points for a couple of flights I already had planned. Well, those points plus the points I earned from the card quickly got me to 10K extra points outside of the sign-up bonus. I was able to use these 10K points for a quick round trip flight between New York and Boston for me and my wife. And finally, those final 30,000 points I was able to use for a one-way ticket to Los Angeles for our wedding that happened in October. Now, this was actually 27,000 points after you think about the 10% rebate that gave me back 3,000 points. Now, if you are keeping track, I got 2 round trip flights for 2 people, and one was actually across the country. I also got a one-way trip for 2 people that totaled up to 102,000 points. And this is before the 10% rebate that made it about 90,000 points, which would have cost me upwards of $1,260 if we're only using the 1.4 cents per point metric. But I do believe that I got a lot more value than that, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. But yeah, also, if you are enjoying this video so far, please show the like button some love. Do not hit it, just click it. So as you can see from my takeaway, the JetBlue Plus card is pretty great in the first year, though there are things that I would think made the card a lot better in my opinion. Now, one issue I had is that the card did not allow you to receive that 10% kickback until you took the flight. Now, this was very annoying for me personally because that was the difference between getting 1 redemption and getting 2 redemptions. So that would have required me to put more spend on the card or even, pay for the flight out of pocket, which was not something I really want to do. It wasn't that big of a problem, but it was something that was a little annoying to me. The bigger problem, well, not that big of a problem, but yeah, something I noticed on the personal card was that it doesn't have Group A boarding. Now, don't get me wrong. There were times where I was able to use extra points to pay for Blue Plus to get Group A boarding, but those were points that I could have used elsewhere. And the main reason that I bring this up is because the business version of this card has Group A boarding, which is really nice. Now, this is not main 1 boarding that you would get with Delta, where everybody and their grandmother can board all at the same time. Group A boarding from JetBlue, at least at the time of recording, doesn't really have that many people getting in line. So that basically means I can get into my seat and sit down and chill. Now, if the card gets more popular, this might be a problem, but I think that people are too stuck on the Deltas and the American Airlines of the world to actually make this an issue, but hey, it's great for me. The JetBlue Plus card is so underrated, and honestly, well, for me at least, that's a good thing. It is true that JetBlue does have dynamic pricing, meaning that the points fluctuate with the cash price, but honestly, even with that, I get pretty great value. Now, it's not mint or a business class trip, but that wasn't really the point of me getting the card to begin with. The point was to go from point A to point B and save some money doing it. That pun was not intended. Though I actually do want to take advantage of JetBlue's connection with the Caribbean, so that was another reason I wanted to grab the card. So I guess you can imagine that I'm not going to cancel this card, though if I get the business version, which I plan on doing, I might downgrade this card to no annual fee version, or I might keep it for the 5,000 point bonus that you get every year. And if you want to see another credit card that I put on the chopping block, you might want to check out this video next. And of course, guys, until next time, peace.